How's it going? This is Marko DeSantis from the rock and roll band Sugarcult, and you are watching New Rock City.
Hey YouTube, welcome back to New Rock City, the show that brings you awesome music videos and informative interviews. I'm your host, Stephen Moss, and it's been a little while since our last episode, and I've got some exciting news to tell you about. In addition to the interviews, New Rock City is also going to be starting up a music festival. In the books, we have July 29th and 30th, 2022. It'll be a two-day festival in the heart of London, England, at a venue called the Black Heart in Camden. It's going to be kind of like a USA versus the UK Battle of the Bands theme. It'll be a lot of fun. The set list will be announced soon. If you are in a band and you'd like to participate, just shoot me a link on Instagram with a link to your band, and we'll go from there. For today's show, we have the amazing Marko DeSantis from the band Sugarcult. Thank you so much for being on the show, man. Appreciate it.
Good, thanks for having me, man. It's exciting. It's your little man cave there looks very cozy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to start off the interview in what I feel kind of lays the foundation for what would ultimately become Sugarcult. So you were in a band called Popsico, and you had described that band as being your first love, and you even went on to say that you would bring some of that energy into Popsico. From Popsico into Sugarcult. What was it about that band that was so influential that impacted you even when you started Sugarcult?
Well, it's interesting. So I was in a band earlier in the 90s. Sugarcult started in about 1999, 1998, 99, depending on which one of us you ask. But Popsico was like earlier in the 90s, and I had this band that and I was like, the other guys in the band were a few years older than me, and so they really were kind of almost like cool older brothers, But I never had an older brother, but I see friends with older brothers, and you know how it is. You kind of have to vie for their respect if you want your place at the table. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, look, dude, we're not gonna wait for you. If you can't keep up, then. And so I really had to kick myself into gear and kind of learn how to hang with the older kids, and the singer was this very intense talent, super radiant, charismatic talent, and unfortunately he ended up dying young, which is why the band fell apart, ultimately. But what I learned when I was playing with him, he just had this that sort of undefinable something where you just feel looking at your posters, you got Nirvana. He reminded me a little bit of Kurt Cobain. Gotcha. In that he had this he was kind of this sensitive, accidentally a good songwriter, but probably didn't set out to be a good songwriter. Just set out to just be
Gotcha.
Tear it up and be a punk rocker, but happened to have this gift of being able to write these amazing, melodies. And so yeah. I think with Popsico, I was literally feeling wow, I'm in a band with someone who I would literally I would buy these records, and I would hang posters of this dude up on my wall and think he was a rock star. Cool. But here I am in a band with him, having a chance to learn from him, to collaborate with him. And when that was taken away, it was, it's initially that sort of shattering of your youthful innocence where you think everything's just going to magically work out. And then I realized oh shit, this is rock and roll can be really heartbreaking, because it's, look at Nirvana, it's yeah. Kurt Cobain wasn't supposed to die, and so it gave me this feeling man, if I ever get to feel like this again, it's going to be all systems go.
Let me just kind of jump in right there, because that segue is perfect.
I told you I never stop talking after coffee. Yeah.
No worries, because that segue is perfect to my second question. First of all, you did have some really cool things happen with Popsico. You opened for Green Day, Weezer opened for you, but at that same time, you had that decision in your life where you spoke to your girlfriend about quitting music, and you had even described Sugarcult as your Hail Mary. What was it that kept you going through that?
Well, exactly that. I feel after Popsico, I tried to sort of pick up the pieces. I actually got to do a few things that would be considered somewhat professional, but if you just look at them from the side of from the side of your peripheral vision, I played with the Ataris, which was, a band that at the time wasn't the Ataris that they are today, where like you think of, oh, that band that had a hit song on the radio and was a big band on the Warped Tour. Back then it was like this, you know, broke teenage kid from the Midwest who like the wind blew out to Santa Barbara, and had like, this like he had a record deal with an independent label owned by the bass player of the Vandals. It was like, and that's what he had going for him. And it was like, okay. And I met him and he's like, do you want to play bass with me? And I was like, sure. And I just jumped in a band with him. And we like literally had a van that we would like coast down the highway because we were like trying to save gas. We would like sleep on people's floor. Sometimes we couldn't find someone to stay with. So we would literally sleep either in the van or on the stage where we had played, like if the venue would let us play.
Really?
And so that was the Ataris. And from that, it led me, because I've always had, I've never considered myself like part of any one community or whatever, but for just whatever reason, I've always had love with the punk rock world. Punk rock has always taken good care of me. I've always taken good care of punk rock. And like people in like bands like, people who are on Fat Records and Epitaph have always been super just welcoming, and I got from the Ataris, I got the opportunity to join, to sort of fill in and be in the Swingin' Utters for a little while, which is this amazing punk band from the Bay Area that was on Fat Records, and I got to go to Europe on tour with the Swingin' Utters. Okay, and that was, to me, I was just like, wow, I can't believe this is possible. This is insane. This is so fun, and I'm playing to crowds of people, and these rad amazing, playing all over Germany. We played like 2 months of shows in Europe, and we were on a, so I got a glimpse of it. Like I was like, oh, this is probably what it would have been like if Popsicle would have hung on,
Gotcha.
But like then there was a part of me that was like, this is really fun. But once I kind of sobered up from it, I realized I was like, it's just not the same if it's not something you built,
Gotcha.
This isn't my band. This is an amazing band, and I have their records, and I love the guys, and it's so fun to play. But it doesn't feel like this is something I didn't help build this. I feel kind of like I'm jumping. It's like it's kind of rock and roll fantasy camp. It's like I did the same thing with another band, and then I was just kind of like, all right, you know what? Maybe I'm just forcing the party here, and maybe I just need to like just try something else. I've been working on bands since I was a kid. I mean, I was in the first band when I was like 14 years old. Played my first show when I was 15. And I was just like, got to a point in life where I was like, okay, what do they say? If you love something, set it free. It's like, I love music so much that I'm going to literally like stop just because I feel like I'm forcing it. And you can't force, it's like trying to force love. Like you can't just decide you're going to go fall in love,
I gotcha.
So I was just like, let go. And that's the weird thing where you just get all,
Yeah.
That's right when I met Tim. And when I met Tim, it was like, at the time I was playing bass. I don't know if this is super boring for your viewers or everything, but
no, this is great.
I was playing bass, and I met Tim because I was playing in his local band. We both got to open for Superdragon. It was his first time ever playing a show in his life.
I'm from Knoxville,
and he was such a
I'm
natural.
aware of them.
Yeah, I was Superdragon, fucking amazing, right? And like, I see this kid up there who's just got that thing, again, that undefinable something. I'm like, this guy, he's so charming, he's so charismatic, he's got such great melodies. It just seems so, he seems like this is what he was born to do. Like, he's just like up on stage, doesn't feel awkward, he looks cool, And so I went up to him, I was like, dude, what's the deal with this band? And he's like, oh, we just play, this is our first time ever playing. And, we just like, I'm just some guy who moved here for, and I'm like, oh, cool. And we exchanged numbers. And I was like, basically thinking like, oh man, I wish I would have, met this guy earlier because this would be a fun band to play in, but they already have a bass player. They were just a trio. And so I kept his number. And I was like, yeah, dude, whatever. Like, let's stay in touch. And we just kind of talk on the phone every once in a while and hang. And, and one day he called me up and he's just like, dude, would you ever want to try playing guitar? Because I think we're going to, I don't think this is supposed to be a trio. There's like guitar parts that need to happen in these songs. And I was like, well, actually, I played guitar when I was, starting out. So I have a guitar, but I'm not really a guitar player. And he was like, actually, that's really cool because we don't want like a guitar player, like the kind of guy who's like patiently waiting for his chance to shred. We want like someone who is like, I just like your vibe. I like your attitude. I like your aesthetic. And so really it was like, I'll learn how to play guitar as much as I need to play guitar with Tim and
Gotcha.
Aaron and our drummer at the time, Ben. And I was like, sure, man. I mean, like I said I was like, well, I'll just do this for fun for now because I already decided I'm not going to pursue music anymore. So this will just be an excuse for me to like, play guitar, get better at guitar, and jam out with some dudes and have something to do until I figure out what my next move is. And then that led to, and 20 years later, here we are celebrating the anniversary of our first record. So
That's awesome.
it's really is like a Hail Mary where I was like, I'll just do this. But then one thing led to another. And it was like, oh, we'll play a show. Oh, that was fun. Let's play another show. Oh, that was fun. Let's play another show. And once I got in the groove with those guys, they just had such a work ethic and so fun. Um, and it's weird when you try to do something professionally, you can almost forget that it's fun, you know?
Yeah.
And it's especially when it's something you love. And I'm like, you got to remember they call it playing music. The word play is like playing with something. And I was like, okay, I'm not trying to do this professionally. I'm just having fun doing this. But then naturally, it's starting to like happen. It's starting to unfold. One opportunity
Gotcha.
leads to another opportunity leads to another. Just by the nature of the kinds of people we are, we're all just sort of workaholics by nature in the band. We would just like get stuff done and make stuff happen. And the next thing you know, like, you know, 2 years in, we got a record deal, and then we got the Warp Tour, and then we got on another tour, and then we got on another tour, and then we started going to Europe and Japan, and it started to happen, and we started getting songs on the radio. And every step of the way, it just seemed like nothing ever seemed forced or like planned in a boardroom or, strategically, you know, storyboarded out. It just literally just kind of organically happened. And honestly, to this day, it still happens that way for Sugarcult. Like we don't
That's
really
great.
have someone behind the at the other end of the phone making stuff happen for our band. Most of the stuff we end up doing is through people hitting us up on social media, fans telling each other about us, putting our songs on playlists. We get like 1 million plays or something. Someone told me 1 million plays a month on Spotify. There's literally no one promoting us. It's just fans telling each other, people who love music finding out about our band and then telling their friends about it and then telling the friends about it. And I love that.
That's
That to
awesome.
me, that's like, fuck yeah, I love to see that.
Well, I want to back up because you had touched on work ethic, and I wanted to talk about that point a little bit because a very high percentage of the people that watch my show are in bands.
Oh,
So
cool.
I wanted to mention how when you were talking about Sugarcult, you said one of the differences was that they had almost like a military approach to band practice. And you said in an interview this, you said, don't mistake it for a playground to fuck off all the time. You
Right.
have to have discipline, you have to have structure. And you even said the schedule. You said that band practice was on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. On Tuesday, it was 6 to 11. Wednesday, it was all day long from starting at 10. Thursday was a half a day, and you had shows the rest of the week.
Right.
And that was non negotiable. So that's
Sure.
a great lesson for bands today. How do you think that really played and benefited into make Sugarcult what they are today?
When things seem to happen natural and organically, that's usually the result. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's an old saying that says, "The harder I work, the luckier I get." I
I
can't
like
remember
that.
who said that. It was one of those old people from way back when. Research it or whatever. But I love that. The harder I work, the luckier I get. So you really, and I would maybe even change the word harder to smarter. The smarter I work, the luckier I get. Because if you just
Gotcha.
randomly kind of just take bong rips all afternoon and hope that someone like eventually hits you up and asks you if you're gonna like want to play a show sometime or kind of jam out or whatever, it's gonna take you a really long time to make anything happen. You gotta like
Gotcha.
honor what you do with this. At least our like philosophy was that like if Tim was like working at J Crew, he was. I remember he had a job at J Crew, like folding sweaters and all that. He doesn't feel like, and I was working at a record store. You don't feel like getting there at 10 in the morning. That's the time your shift is. You don't feel like
Gotcha.
folding a sweater or putting a bunch of CDs out into the racks. That's the time. That's the job that someone is telling you got to do. Um, and then it's like in exchange for that you get, and then if you can't do it, you can't just not show up, you have to get your shift covered. Okay, so you're doing all that effort. You're pulling yourself out of bed with some beautiful chick that you went home with a hangover, and you're leaving to go get to work at 10 and wear some stupid thing that they want you to wear if you work at J. Crew or Starbucks or wherever you have a job. For what? So you can make like your minimum wage, thing.
Yeah.
And ultimately you're making that person, the owner of that company, a lot of money because you're just like you're saying please and thank you and being nice to people to help someone else's company become successful in exchange for you're getting paid for your time, I suppose. Okay, so I look at like you're willing to bust your ass and get out of bed and make it across and take planes and trains and buses and whatever you got to do to get to work. But then when it comes to your own goal in life, your music career or whatever it is you're trying to do, you treat it like it's a hobby. You treat it like it's like sort of just like, yeah, it's just something I fuck around with my friends. That's, to me, that's the opposite. Like I say, like treat your job as a hobby and treat your band as your job, Give it that amount of respect where it's like, hey, guys, this is when we practice. This is we got other things that need to be delegated. We got a website. We got to get some merch going on. We got to get this thing going on. We got to send out a newsletter. We got to make flyers. We got to try to book some shows. There's a lot more to being in a band than just jamming out in a room with amps and drums. That's the fun part,
Yeah.
Like somebody once said, like as far as touring goes, they go, you don't get paid for the hour you're on stage. You get paid for all the miles you drive and the strings you're changing and the hurry up and wait and the schlepping of gear and the being away from home and all that, and the strep throat and the whatever stomach flu and all the other stuff. That's what you're getting paid for. The show is on the house. You're playing the show for free. So it's the same thing. It's like making up songs and getting together as a band and practicing and playing shows is the hopefully the to me that's like the fun part of the day, of the work day. But there's also all the other stuff, and I think we were lucky that guys like me, I see the fun in that. Like to me, the idea of getting a show is really fun. It's like putting on. I look at it like I trick myself. I don't say I'm trying to book us a show. I say I'm trying to throw a party.
Oh,
So it's
cool.
like if you have kids, I have a couple kids. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I want to have a Hello Kitty birthday party with a bouncy house, and you're like, okay, let's figure out how we can find a bouncy house. What are we gonna do? Oh, we got to tell people about it. We got to make invitations. What are we gonna have for food there? And then you try to make it as cool as it can be. Well, you apply that same attitude to like your show. You're like, instead of this like miserable like, oh, I got to get a show at this one place and they'll put me on at 8 o'clock. It's like, don't make it a show, make it an event. It's all the way you look at it. And if it's just like I'm playing some random show somewhere at 9 o'clock and it's a Tuesday night, and the sound's pretty whatever, that doesn't sound very exciting. Like I'm not even excited to go to that as the person playing the show. Like how do you expect your friends to want to go to that? So what you do is you go, dude, we're doing this fucking thing Tuesday night. It's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be fucking crazy. I'll put you on the guests on the discount list or whatever it is. And like we're all gonna meet at 7 o'clock at so and so's place, and we're gonna drink a bunch of beer and eat a bunch of food, and then we're all gonna go over there together. And then the show's gonna be like the orgasm at the end of an amazing long hangout session, right? Instead of just like trying to cajole your friends to come see you play just so you can have a warm body in the room. Like fuck that, So it's all about that. So I guess sorry, I'm kind of scatterbrained today, but like the point I'm trying to make is like your band, if you want to try to have and even if you are just doing it as a hobby and you don't think you're actually gonna try to make a play for the, I don't know. I don't know any other way. Like to me, it's never been like this is how you behave if you're just doing it for fun, and this is how you behave if you're trying to be professional. To me, it's all the same thing, same exact program. Have a couple days a week that are your rehearsal. Have your rehearsal space in such a way, if possible, where everything's already there. So it's like you want it to be as like convenient as possible to not put it off. And if all your stuff's set up, because the part that sucks about band practice is when you got to load your stuff, and put it in your car, and drive to a place, and unload it, and set it up, and get out, and then realize you forgot your tuner, and it's fun when you can just walk into a room and just like literally hit a power strip and everything turns on, including the Christmas lights that you have decorating the place, and then you just plug in and get in tune, and you already have your set list. And you just go, and maybe even have a system where it's like, all right, here's how practice goes. We show up, we tune up, we play the set, and then we talk about stuff for a little while. And then maybe someone goes,
Gotcha.
dude, okay, so I got this. It's like a warm up. It's like if you're an athlete, you're just gonna show up and do your stretches, and then
Mhm.
you're gonna put your uniform on, and then you're gonna play. And then you're probably going to talk about like, okay, here's how we're going to do this shape or whatever it is. It's very similar, the amount of discipline, preparation, all that kind of stuff, and then actually just showing up and then delivering, and then of course being able to, if you have all that stuff, if you're like rehearsed and you rehearse like maybe you have like your bass player, like we would rehearse standing the same way we play on stage. So I'd be
Oh, okay.
on the this side of Tim, and Aaron would be on this side of Tim, and we would maybe be facing each other. But then maybe at the end of practice we go, okay, now let's turn around and literally like behave as though we're playing a show. Sometimes we even turn the lights off
Oh,
and
that's
like be
cool.
like rocking out, because what you want to do is you want to be able to play a show that feels like a show, and it doesn't just feel like 8 songs that you just are randomly playing. Like so we build
Gotcha.
in like we spend as much time at practice like working on the space between 2 songs as we would on the actual songs. Like to me it's like you write songs, and then when you put them together as a set, you want to have the set list feel almost like a giant song. So you have like this is we'd even plan where our talk breaks were going to be. We wouldn't plan what we're going to say because I always thought that was kind of lame. But you plan like, let's play these 2 songs, and then we'll say something, and then we'll play these 3 songs with little segues between them, musical interludes, so the music never stops. Um, and then we'll say something, and that it's also a convenient time to switch a guitar out, or someone needs to switch a
Mhm.
guitar, to drink some water or whatever. And then and there is strategy involved where like you don't play a song first or second that's going to be really hard for your singer to sing because they haven't had a chance to even if they did vocal warm-ups, they're still going to come out like that
Gotcha.
adrenaline of starting out. You're going to blow out your voice for the rest of the set, so you might want to choose a song, and at the same time you don't want to put that song at the end of the set because by then your voice is going to be blown out anyway from just playing a whole set and rocking out and being so there is a lot of discipline and structure and strategy and thoughtfulness that goes into looking like a devil may care rock and roll band that just has a fuck you attitude, right?
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
that's important.
Nice. Well, all that paid off perfectly for you guys because, as we mentioned in the start of the show, the Start Static is celebrating its 20 years. That's
Dude,
amazing.
crazy.
What a milestone for you guys. So, I wanted to play a video from that. I wanted to play Bouncing Off the Walls, but in researching this, I found a really cool tidbit that you guys got Tara Reid to do that video for just cigarettes and champagne. Is that true?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's
um
awesome.
I mean, the dude. First of all, I like so much respect. Like, you certainly did your homework,
Oh, thank you. I
and
tried.
that's badass. Um, so we were early on when right around the time of Start Static, we got we were just like, okay, anything we can do to get anyone to give a to even like pretend to care about our band, we'll try it. Like whatever. Like we made this record, we're proud of it. Now we just want people to hear it. You know, and so we just had this sort of say yes attitude where like if someone was like, hey, do you want to be on this thing, we're like, yeah. They're like, well, I haven't even finished telling you about it yet. You're like, who cares, it's probably awesome, let's do it.
That's
And
cool.
so they were like, here's the thing, where there's this movie coming out called Van Wilder, and they want to use your music. There's music for the soundtrack, but they don't really have any money left because they've kind of blown their budget. And we were like, good, tell them they can use anything they want, use our whole record if they want. And they were like, seriously? And I was like, yeah. We're so used to being broke, like at least this way we'll be broke but have our songs in a movie that has Tara Reid in it. And so that was kind of our attitude, and it ended up being sort of a cool thing because they ended up literally, like, you watch that movie, it's like a Sugarcult infomercial. There's like so many of our songs thrown out throughout that movie. And then when they started doing all the promotion for it, they called us up and they're like, hey, do you guys want to come and play? Like, they need a band to play their big party that they're doing. And we flew out to like Florida and played this party. I don't know if it was like their rap party or their press party or whatever it was. We played, and they put us in the same like little, like, I don't know if it was like a dressing room. It was more like a little like VIP bar area.
Okay.
for like the actors, and at the time that Ryan Reynolds was the male actor in it, and he wasn't like the big star he is today, like Deadpool and everything, but he was like a hopeful. Like they were
Gotcha.
betting. He was a horse they were all betting on. And then Tara Reid was kind of like the queen of the scene back then. She had been in a bunch of movies like American Pie or whatever, and like so they had Ryan and Tara and us because they figured, well, you guys are the band, so we were like, we're not used to hanging out with movie stars. This is kind of crazy. But we ended up hanging with them and having some drinks, sliding into some cocktails. And Tara was, she enjoyed a cocktail or 10, and she started getting a little bit like, she started getting a little bit spicy, and she was like sitting on our lap and just close talking in our face. And me and
Gotcha.
Tim were kind of looking at each other like, what's gonna happen? Like, is one of us gonna hook up with Tara Reid?
That's all.
I mean, she's probably like listening to this going like, you wish, but like, at the time we were like, I guess this is what happens when you become a band with a record out. You get to hang out with movie stars. And she's just talking, and she's just like, at some point I kind of like, through the fog of like loud music and alcohol, I heard her, I kind of keyed into what she said, and she was basically like really just passionate about music. And she's just like, I love music. I used to date Carson Daly, and I know all these people, and you guys are fucking awesome. And and I was like, and I just kind of went in for the kill. I was like, okay, there's two paths I can go here. I can either like say, do you want to go to my hotel with me, which would probably not be a good idea, or I could say, do you want to be in our video? And maybe get the gift that keeps on giving, rather than like, scandal in the tabloids or whatever. And so I was like, you should be in our fucking video sometime. And she's all, I'll totally be in your video. And she like did this whole thing. And she's like, and I was like, you know what? In all seriousness, like that'd be rad, but I highly doubt we could like afford to get a movie star in our video. We're like a brand new band. And she's just like, dude, don't even worry about it. Give me a fucking carton of cigarettes and a bottle of champagne, and I'll do your video. And we were like, I just thought she was trying to impress us, like just try to be like down with the like, punk rockers and and like. I literally I called our manager right away. I was like, dude, I know this is probably a joke, but you should just try to follow up on this because it sure would be cool. And he's like, seriously? It ended up like, again, you guys, this is for the bands that are watching. Yeah. You just have to be crazy enough to ask for shit sometimes, And like what happened was he gets back to me a couple days later, our manager, he's like, okay, so check it out. Not only is she going to be in your video, but the other guy wants to be in your video too, Ryan Reynolds, and the movie National Lampoon, the people that are putting out the movie, want to help pay for the video in exchange for cutting in scenes from the movie into your video. And they're calling it part of the promotion budget. So they're going to like, when Tara Reid goes on TRL, they're going to play the video and talk about it when they do like, and I was like, okay, but I did make one thing where I told our manager, I was like, here's the thing. I don't want to be, between you and me, I don't want to be stuck with a bunch of footage from their movie in our video and just be the band that has the song from Van Wilder for the rest of our life. So, and also, especially if the movie flops, which it kind of did, I don't want that stink to be on our video. So I was like, take the footage, make an edit of it with the footage, and as long as they're promoting the movie, we'll have that be the video, and then we'll resurface MTV and everybody with a video without any of the footage from the movie, but just with the scenes with, just with the stuff that we shot with Ryan and Tara in the studio in LA, and that's what you see now. Like if you look up the Bouncing Off, I don't think you can find the version that has clips from Van Wilder in it because that played for like 5 minutes. But yeah, so that's kind of a cool story. Yeah, they were really cool. They were really fun to work with. And literally, I looked in her dressing room at one point, and there was a box of cigarettes and a bottle of champagne because I was like,
oh man,
so
that's awesome.
You sure that happens, Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Crazy.
Well, so here's the video for "Bouncing Off the Walls" by Sugarcult.
Awesome.
I'm bouncing off the walls again. Whoa, I'm looking like a fool again. Whoa, I threw away my reputation. One more song for the radio station. I'm bouncing off the walls again. Whoa, and I'm looking like a fool again. Whoa, I'm waking up on the bathroom floor. Pull myself back together just to fall once more. My heart's beating out of my chest. This has and hang it up so you can tear me down. I don't care, 'cause I'm still here, and I've got nothing left to lose with all the years I've wasted on you. Mom and Daddy's got the best cooking. Little Linda's never gonna feel the same. 20 more hours on an empty brain. I got my finger on the trigger in my way. I'm bouncing off the walls again. Whoa, and I'm looking like a fool again. Whoa, threw away my reputation. One more song for the radio station. I'm bouncing off the walls again. And I'm looking like a fool again. I'm bouncing off the walls again. And I'm looking like a fool again. I'm bouncing off the walls again.
All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. So, Start Static was a huge hit, and it sold over 100,000 copies in the first year. As a fan, I kind of feel that if it was released today, it would still have the same impact, sell a bunch of records. However, Marko, you once said that you could re-record those songs and it would not be the same. You went on to say that those songs had to be recorded in that time frame. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think that there's more to songs than just the chord changes and the melodies. You know, songs are really like, if you really break it down, I mean, songs are different than other storytelling. You know, if you could write a novel, you know, you could make a movie, but with songs, I feel like it's much more like, especially with like rock bands or whatever, it's really like a document of where you are in life. You know,
Gotcha.
what you think is cool, how you hear music. I feel like it sounds kind of like cheesy to say this, but like to me, like what makes rock and roll work is when it runs on authenticity. And you know, if you are authentically making the music that is the sound of your voice at that time, the sound of your feelings at that time, you know, the musical expression of what you think is cool, then it's like it gets, if you know, and you hit record, you're essentially taking a picture of that moment and you're capturing it. And like, I don't know, man, I don't think Green Day could make Dookie today. I think that they can play those songs when you go see them live, and I saw them just recently, and they played them, and they sounded fantastic. But I don't think those are the songs that would come out of Green Day if Green Day was just making their record today.
Gotcha.
You know,
Gotcha.
and that's one of the reasons why. Also, not to talk too much about Green Day, but I love Green Day. That's why when I heard the last Green Day record, a lot of people were like, "Oh," I was like, "This sounds fucking awesome," because I know those guys, and to me, this sounds like who they are today. And we as fans get attached to the projection we put on bands of who we wish they would stay and be forever. But if Green Day made a record today that sounded like Dookie, I bet you we'd be able to tell that they were trying too hard. That they were like, it's like, you got to catch the lightning in a bottle, and that's why people should make records. You know, I mean, there's a whole bunch of people who are probably thinking like, well, what's the point of ever being in a band when there's already been like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Ramones and the Clash? Like, and they're right. It's like, fuck, there's such great bands from the history. So what's the point? Well, it's because every new generation, you know, it's not good enough. You know, I love the Clash, but the Clash wasn't my generation. You know, it was they were speaking to the people who at the time. I like it because I like vintage things, you know, and I listen to it. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And of course, by the time it gets to my generation, it's become mythologized to the point where it's even cooler than it probably ever was. Sort of like Sugarcult. Like, I meet people today who are like, oh, you guys were so... I'm like, God, where were you fucking 20 years ago, man? Like, you know, but time mythologizes things. And I
Gotcha.
think that's fun. That's part of the fun of being a music fan. Like we can sit here and talk about like whatever. Then we could talk about like the Ramones, or we could talk about David Bowie, or we could talk about Jawbreaker. We could talk about things from the past because they've had so many years to just marinate in mythology, and they become like larger than life, and you remember it in retrospect as this something that's bigger than it probably ever even was, and it seems so magic, whereas the things that are happening today, you think, oh, that's pretty cool, but you maybe don't like the stuff that's happening in your own generation, in your own time. It never feels as like legit as the stuff that happened before, right? And then
Gotcha.
give it some time, and the stuff that people are like maybe slightly dismissing today, it's going to appreciate and value, and people are going to go back and check it out, maybe, and reappraise it. Conversely, there's
Gotcha.
also things you like from the past that you loved in their day, and then in retro, and then you go back and look at it, and you're like, oh, it doesn't really hit me the same way it used to.
That makes sense.
Like
Yeah, because your life experiences are different. You're different,
hopefully,
and I get it.
hopefully we evolve. Hopefully we keep growing and we keep learning, and we always keep our antennas up and be open to new things. And I think that's important, not to get too like set in your ways and like hardened in your views of like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. Why? Because it's the way it's always been. And then it's like, well, that's kind of a path to nowhere, because nothing's ever been the same. If you really pan back, it's like we've always been changing. Shit was different 1,000 years ago. It's going to be different 1,000 years from now, whether we like it or not, right? So like, as far as like, could we make Start Static today? I don't think so, because we're not like dudes in our 20s with like stars in our eyes and looking at every girl that walks by. We're people that have like families, and we own houses and are in our 40s. You know what I mean? So it's a different thing. And same thing with Green Day. It's like they make that record. It's a record should be an honest expression of like what you think is cool and who you are. I mean, even just the records we made. If you look at Start Static, you listen to that record, and then you listen to Palm Trees and Power Lines, which was made like 2 years later. Well, released 3 years later, but probably written about 2 years after. Well, yeah. So Palm Trees and Power Lines came out in 2004. Start Static came out in 2001. There's a huge change, and that's because we weren't the same people when we made Palm Trees and Power Lines as we were when we made Start Static. When we made Start Static, we were like, I was a guy who had almost given up on music, having played in a couple bands that almost pulled something off. Tim was a guy who had never been in a band before in his life. Aaron was a guy who had never been in a band before in his life, was barely out of school, and our drummer was a guy who had like thought about being in a band when he was a teenager, and then sort of abandoned it and saw himself as someone who's going to become like maybe a record producer or an engineer, and then got kind of pulled back into it when he met Tim. So it was a really weird combination of people, and we just kind of, once we made Start Static, it was like, okay, we're a local band playing in bars, playing at parties, playing, traveling around in our commuter cars, trying to, schlep ourselves to work or school the next morning after playing a show an hour away to nobody. And then just practicing and practicing, like with that military discipline, just practicing like crazy, because it was the one thing we could control. We're like, we can't control if we're going to get a record deal, we're going to get discovered, we're going to get a gig, but we can control our own schedule. And like we just worked on what we could control and kept ourselves available in case something from the outside presented itself. But like it was like, let's play shows as much as we can, let's try to record our songs, get like bro deals at local studios and record our songs so we can sort of workshop what we're doing, and then let's just practice like maniacs, because we also had this inferiority complex. Like none of us are like virtuosos, so we're like, we need to practice for 10 hours to be able to be as good as someone else who can maybe practice for an hour and be. So it was like, I feel like we had that thing where like when we would play shows in our hometown, we felt like we really needed to like overdo it almost. Like we were like, well, we could just like show up and people would be happy that like, hey, Marko and Tim are in a band, they're playing a show, cool, it's Tuesday night. But we were like, let's play that show like our lives depend on it. Like, and people are gonna go, damn, dude, it's just fucking Tuesday, relax, And you're like, no, man, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it. And remember, I had that thing because I had it before with Popsico, where I was like, I know how rare it is to feel that to have this chemistry in a band, and I want to make sure that if I get the chance to do it again, I'm gonna do it right, and just pull out all the stops. So we had that attitude. We're like, every show we play is the most important show on earth, whether it's fucking Milwaukee or New York City or fucking, San Antonio, Texas, or Fresno, California. Doesn't matter. It's not like L.A., San Francisco, oh, Fresno, Bakersfield. We were like, fuck that. Let's play the Bakersfield show like we're playing Madison Square Garden, And we did, and people little by little started to like. They would come up to us and go, "Fuck, damn, dude, who are you guys? Like, are you guys already on the radio? Like, should I know who you are?" So we sort of the way you present yourself and project yourself is the way people are going to receive you. If you project yourself like, hey, we're just this dumpy little local band that's broke, that's what people are going to feel. If you present yourself like, dude, we're supposed to be, we're fucking superstars. We just haven't gotten to be, we just haven't gotten there yet. I think that's a better way to approach it. You trick yourself into believing it, and then you actually manifest it. I know that sounds kind of California woo-woo, but like, it's kind of true. I don't know, man. It's, but yeah, I don't think we could make Start Static. We certainly could make Start Static today,
I found one other piece of information that I thought was really cool I wanted to bring out. The singer from Sleeping with Sirens, he said his first record that he ever bought with his own money was Start Static.
Dude, that's so awesome. Where did you find that from something I said, or was it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was watching one of your other interviews.
Yeah, dude, that guy Kellen Quinn, I was aware of Sleeping. I try to, like I said, I was always trying to check out new stuff, and I was aware of them. And then I eventually got invited to one of their shows, and I went, and they fucking killed it. It was great band. And I was able to go. Like, someone brought me backstage, and I kind of just was like, dude, I want to meet the singer. He seemed like a cool dude, and he was super sweet. And he kind of confided in me. He's like, dude, I gotta tell you, man, like, and I'm always surprised. I'm like, that's crazy. Anybody knows who the fuck we are. It's incredible when anybody tells me that they like our band, because, like I said, it's just like, we're still just these, this little band from Santa Barbara that just went out there. And like I told you, beginning of Sugarcult, I had less than zero expectations. I thought my days of my hopes and dreams of rock and roll stardom were, were going to be a thing of the past, and that it was just all going to be like, all right, well, whatever, just And so Sugarcult, every step of the way, has been this enormous, like, just beautiful sort of treat, just dessert. And so, like, that anybody cared about us at all has always been like such a gift to me. But when you have like people in bands you respect acknowledge that you exist, like, when Green Day asked us to go on tour with them, when I met Dave Grohl and he was like, dude, what's happening to your band reminds me of like what was happening in Nirvana when we were just starting. And it just gives you shivers, you're like, that's so awesome. When that someone like the Dave Grohl or Billy Joe even know who we are, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So then people coming up to you, meeting fans all over the country when you're on tour, and like some girl in New Jersey coming up to you and saying that your song like talked her off the ledge, or helped her through a tough breakup, or prevented her from doing something really, dangerous or whatever. It's like, those things stick with you and make you kind of go, wow, I'm so glad we did this, because it's so fun in and of itself to just be a band and make up songs with your friends and do stuff and play shows. But then you realize, like, there is something, like I said, as a fan, I can empathize. It's like, music is such an important thing. It's such an important, it gives your life definition. It gives your life meaning. It gives you a hand to hold on to. It gives you something to turn up and like just make it through the fucking week, or gives you something, it gives you a context to celebrate things. I mean, music is, it's probably being melodramatic, but like, music is fucking everything, and in general is probably what gets us all through, like all these years of political turmoil and historically all the stuff you read about. It's like the one thing that has been a consistent thing through all the years and all the different mutations music has taken and art has taken. It's been the one thing that's kind of been for people.
Oh, I totally agree, man. My favorite quote I can't remember who actually originated it, but it says music can cure things medicine cannot. So I
I love
mean,
that. So
it's
true.
yeah.
So
And
true.
like when I was 27, I had brain surgery,
Oh
and for a
man.
period of time, I had like amnesia. So I've done a lot of research about the brain, and one thing I found super interesting is when you talk to brain surgeons and doctors who deal with the brain, and they tell you about patients who have dementia and so forth. One of the very last things to go in a person's memory is music.
Oh wow. What a
So
trip. Because
like
I've heard
they,
about that with like a sense of smell. It's
yeah,
like your smell is like has an amazing memory. Like you can go to your grandparents' house and immediately brings back like all these memories because you smell like the way their couch or their cookies smell or
yeah.
whatever, right?
But even still, after that though, it's music though, man.
That's
So
so
people
awesome.
forget,
It's
they
true.
forget their kids, they forget their own like past experiences, but they remember music, and I just think that's incredible.
Well, and I mean that really is, and I think it's like what we were sort of touching on this earlier. Like, music reminds you. It sort of you remember how music makes you feel more than you remember how music sounds. You know what I mean? So when
Yeah.
people say they love Sugarcult, I think what they're really saying is they love the memories they have from the time when they used to listen to Sugarcult all the time and go see us play. And Sugarcult becomes, it's like we're part of the soundtrack of their life.
Oh,
So it's like
definitely,
they
definitely,
might
yeah.
specifically like a song of ours and they might consciously be thinking, I love this band, but subconsciously they're thinking, oh man, I miss the good old days when I had a T-Mobile sidekick and was on MySpace and not a worry in the world. And the only thing I was worried about was whether that kid at school was going to be a bully or something like, and then they're now adults and they go like, oh man, I wish I could go back, So I feel like that's kind of one of the things music does. It's like, I've said this in another interview recently. It's almost like it's almost like a cool time capsule or time machine, you know? But it also it's not just a throwback. Like you don't just put on Start Static and listen back and go, oh, I remember the good old days of 2001. It's still alive, even though it was recorded 20 years ago. It's still alive today because someone could hear it today and it might be like, whoa, that's awesome. Like I've
Yeah.
discovered a lot of music that was from before my time, and I can kind of drop into it and go, wow, this is cool. But it also becomes a little bit of a connection to a time gone by. So someone who was 5 years old when Start Static came out can listen to it now at 26, and they can be like, oh man, this music was what I needed to hear right now. Like this music is made by a 26-year-old 20 years ago, but it's kind of a cool little like message in a bottle. And now it's washed up on my shore in my life, in my time, and it's speaking to me. Whereas I might listen to that, and I listen to Start Static now, and I go, oh, okay. It's kind of an interesting way to stay in touch with your former self. Like I said, it's like a message in a bottle, So it's kind of like a connection to it. You're like, oh, that's what I thought would be cool to do on guitar at that point. Oh, that's what we were talking about then. Oh, that's because Tim had just dated that one girl and then broken up with her, and that's what that song's about. And it's like time travel, man. It's so
That's cool.
cool. So
Well, that's
yeah,
awesome, man.
I can't remember what we were talking about. Oh, Kellen Quinn from Sleeping with Sirens. So I got to go back and meet him, and he tells me, yeah, man, my mom let me buy Start Static when I was like 11 years old, and it was the first CD I ever like bought with my own money or whatever, and he was that was cool. I mean, it made me feel really old. I'm like, dude, I just watched you play a fucking sold out show, and there's like 300 kids outside screaming, and wanting to like meet you. But it was also made me feel really proud because that was kind of an unforeseen consequence of putting out some records. Is like, oh, of course, kids are gonna listen to records just like I did. I listened to records. I was like, that's so cool. I want to form a band. Kids are gonna listen to our records, and then go form bands. And we had I had the guy from of Mice and Men tell me that he was that Sugarcult was his first concert when he was
wow.
15.
That's
Another
cool.
guy, another band called it's funny because these were like heavier bands. Pierce the Veil,
Yeah.
from Pierce the Veil. I got to meet him. Super cool guy. And he was like, dude, I loved your band. I'm like, that when I was in high school, we actually had a local band and we got to open for you guys once, and talking to him about it. Talked to that dude Kellen, and just like time and time again, meeting these people from these of these newer generations of bands, and it's just such a cool feeling to think that damn, okay, well, you almost don't want to talk to him too much. You're like, I don't want to ruin the mythology. Whatever you think about us must be cooler than what we actually are, but really we're just a bunch of dorks, you know? But
That's
like,
awesome.
you know, it really does, like, that's a really special thing that I never even imagined would happen. And our singer actually produces a lot of people now. He's like become a really big record producer, and he'll, you know, bands will come in and he's there working with them, and then he'll notice that they're like, dude, I kind of feel weird to say this, but you know, I used to listen to your music when I was like 13. And you're like, that's so fucking cool,
Oh,
you know?
that's amazing, dude. That's
And
really
now
cool.
he's getting to produce their record. It's like there's something meaningful about that, you know? I don't know. It's cool. So we'll see.
Nice. Well, the next video I wanted to play is "Stuck in America." What can you tell us about that song and video?
Well, that video was our first video. So it was the first video we ever made. We had never
That's
made a
cool.
video before that. And so it was like, hey guys, you got this record. We're going to put out the first single, Stuck in America, and then we're going to make a video. And we're like, okay. You know, it's just kind of down for whatever. And you read these things called treatments, which are basically like directors will submit to the record company, like, hey, we want to do a video for this band. And you read all these different concepts, and most of them seem kind of whack. And this one was like, you guys are going to be playing for this crazy crowd of Japanese schoolgirls on a fictitious Japanese TV show, and it just sounded so like ludicrous and silly, because again, at the time we were like a band that, like, you know, maybe could play a packed dive bar in our hometown, but we hadn't become a band that was like out there that people knew about yet. And so we were like, oh, that'll be crazy. Okay, sure. A bunch of like Japanese schoolgirls wearing schoolgirl uniforms. You know, let's do it. And so we just shot the video one day, and yeah, that was that. And then we saw how it looked, and there was like parts of it that were like in slow motion, parts of it that were like this, and it was like, God, we look cooler than we actually are, so that's cool. You know, show business. And then the song came out, and you know, a lot of people know this story. Unfortunately, literally, the song was on the radio and it was doing really well. And our release date for Start Static was August 21st, I want to say, of 2001. Records used to come out on Tuesday, so whatever that Tuesday was. And if you look at the calendar, you'll notice that the next month would be September, and that would include another Tuesday called September 11th. Okay.
Yeah.
So our song was "Stuck in America," which was called, which said everyone's talking about blowing up the neighborhood. So immediately when that happened, our song got axed like right away. That all the, you know, radio stations, it just became this big thing. It was like any songs that were like "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor" by Puddle, you know, any song by any band that has any kind of possible unpatriotic slant to it at all.
Or even anything with like planes or something, like, right? Didn't they just yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm leaving on a jet plane, done. You know, everything. Just like, and like they just went nuts. And I mean, you know, the least of our worries, we were just like, holy shit, we're, you know, like that was such a tragedy. You know, that the last thing you're gonna do is be like, you don't even have the bandwidth, the emotional bandwidth when you're going through that, to think like, oh, how sad that our song's not getting played on the radio. Like, that's the last thing on our mind. But like, at the same time, it was like, oh shit, you know. Of course, I'm thinking, oh my God, here he goes again. Pops a go. 2 weeks before our record called off to a bad start came out, our singer died in a car accident because he was on drugs.
Man.
2 weeks after our debut record comes out and we have a song that's catching on the radio, there's a terrorist attack, you know, and you want to like remove your ego from it and go, this is not about me, but like at the same time, silently, internally, you're going, God dang it, you know, after all these years, you know. Yeah. And we just picked up the pieces and kind of, you know, kept going. And to what you were saying before, it's like that's when we found out that we were doing something more than just playing in a rock and roll band. That's when we found out, once after September 11th happened, and we kind of felt this like, oh, this like moment in time where you're like, what's going to happen? What's up? What's down? What is the meaning of life even? That's when you have this moment where you're like, okay, this is more than just entertainment. This is, like you said, this is like, you feel like you're actually doing something that's a little bit more responsible and maybe valuable to society, other than just jumping around on stage and playing rock songs on an electric guitar, right? And that, because we started to see like people needed something. They needed music. They didn't, you know. And I think people have always needed music, but like in times of like, you go through times like that, people really need music because, like you said, it's like medicine, right? It's like, what did you say? You said it so well. Like music is
Well, the quote was, "Music cures things medicine cannot."
music cures things medicine cannot. And at that point, there was no kind of medicine, you know, whether it was actual over the, prescription medicine or like tequila. There was nothing that was going to be able to soothe people's souls and restore people's faith in humanity like going to a show and feeling like they're around other people to the, rocking out to the same band. And once we started playing shows again after that, it made us feel like, holy shit, this is a noble thing to do with your life, because there's so many external factors that are going to just like dismiss you because you've got a red mohawk, or dismiss me because I need a haircut, or dismiss someone else because they're playing in a rock band. Anyone past the age of like 13 that's playing music is pretty much looked at as by society as a ne'er-do-well, as someone who's either like, you're like almost looked at like you're like profiled like a criminal or something. Like, gotcha. What are you trying to do? Hey boys, what are you doing over there? There's this, it's like when you're a little kid, they're like, yeah, right on. You're going to be a rock star? Cool. Right on. You're playing a recital. You're doing a song at your talent show at school. And then when you're 16, they're like, all right, what did you try to steal? Let me see your backpack. How many beers you got in there? Like, and so you feel that like profiling when you go through, and then when you become an adult and you're playing in a band, people assume like, okay, what's wrong with you? What do you do? Are you a drug addict? Are you a fucking, are you a douche? Like, what's wrong with you? And like, so there is like, you have to find it within yourself. And this, I guess I'm saying this to the bands that might be watching this thing. Remember that you guys are fucking first responders. If you have a local scene and there's nothing for kids to do, put on a fucking show. Put basement shows on the East Coast, or like where I grew up in California, you have like driveway shows, like shows that teenagers put on their own. Become like, you think you're just putting on a show and having a party for your, just to do something, but you're actually doing such an important thing. You're creating a scene. You're giving people a feeling of like they, something to be proud of, like the people in our hometown, like it was like if you were in a band, cool, but if you were at the shows all the time, you were just like, it was like the show, the audience is just as important as the band. It was just like a group of people with something to do and something to kind of like, wear a shirt of, put a sticker on their skateboard of, feel like they're part of. And to me, I know it sounds kind of silly, but like that is to me what like the punk rock spirit is. Green Day came from that up north. They had the Gilman Street scene in Berkeley, where it's like a place where people could feel like they belonged and where they feel like it mattered. And it felt like it gave young people a place to go if they didn't find that, like, if they didn't find that love at home, they could find it with their friends at the, Operation Ivy show or whatever, in the pit or whatever. And like growing up from that kind of a scene, we brought that with us. And like, you don't have to play whatever punk rock means to you. A lot of people are like very rigid. They're like, if it doesn't sound like Anti-Flag, it's not technically punk rock. If it's on a major label, it's not punk rock. If it's not, to me, punk rock's not a sound, it's an attitude, Gotcha. And it's, I know people who are punk rock as fuck, but they wear a suit every day. You know what I mean? They don't have to have, so it's like, it's your spirit, it's your attitude, and like, giving people somewhere. I mean, there's that Rancid lyric, right? When I've got the music, I've got a place to go. Yep. To me, that's everything right there. Like, you've got, music will always leave a light on for you. If you like a band, you can go see them play. If you like a style of music, you can go to that, go to a show in that style of music, and there's going to be, your tribe is going to be there, and they're going to pick you up if you fall down, and they're going to catch you if you jump off the stage or whatever. It's like, that's such a good feeling for people to know that somewhere, if they can't find a place in polite society that'll let them have a place at the table, that there's a place that you can go where you're gonna get love, you're gonna get respect, you're gonna get camaraderie, you're gonna get like included. And that's a really important thing. And I think something a lot of people I know in bands have in common is that we were all the like misfit kids in our neighborhoods or at our schools, and then we found music as that like sort of like lifeline, sort of like, it's almost like a sanctuary where you're like, dude, there's a place you can go where instead of being like beaten up because you're a weirdo, you're like, celebrated because you're a weirdo, you know? And I've just
What I
always
think
been
is
really sensitive about that when Sugarcult was out there all over the world playing shows, thinking like the people in this crowd, we're like we're a tribe, It's like they're us, they're the weirdos, or they're the people that love to go to. It's almost like I don't know what I'm saying here, but
no, it's really cool though, because what's also great about it is, like, from doing this YouTube channel, I've met these great punk bands from like Bali, Indonesia, the UK, Canada. Like, so not only is it, like you said, a tribe, but it's so cool because it breaks international barriers. These are just
for
music
sure.
fans from all over, and that's a really cool experience though.
Yeah, and I want to like clarify, like when I say it's a tribe, I don't mean that it's tribal. In that, if you're not this
like
cool,
a
you
community
can't come to our
or
show. Or
something.
to me, like what makes it problematic for me is when people become like, they basically artists to me are supposed to be open, and like when artists get really closed, I mean, you can impose limitations on yourself. Like the Ramones didn't dress the way the Ramones dress just by accident. There was a very specific part of their art presentation. It was like, this is what we're gonna look like, this is how we're gonna play, and this is how we're gonna start most of our songs with 1, 2, 3, 4. With Sugarcult, we had lots of rigid rules. Like no one was allowed to wear shorts or blue jeans. We
Had to
we
wear
had
the
a very
suits.
like specific, like this is how we look. White stripes. This is red, white, black guitar and drums. Boom. I think those things are cool as part of artistic expression. But as far as like, you're not allowed to like our band unless you're a vegan. You're not allowed to like our band unless you have tattoos. You're not allowed to like our band unless you have our early 7-inch from before we were famous. Fuck that. To me, that's just imitating the people that chased you into being a weirdo to begin with. You know what I mean? It's like,
no, that's totally true. That's awesome. Sorry, we got into a little sidetrack, but I was gonna play Stuck in the
fun of doing these things.
Exactly. So all that to say, here is the video Stuck in America by Sugarcult.
これから皆さんに素晴らしい最高のバンドをご紹介いたします。Sugarcult!
Today I changed too late, 'cause everyone stayed the same. I'm gone so long, break out, 'cause I'm better off on my own. Today I changed too late, 'cause every town feels the same. I'm different and you're distant, add it up and it makes no difference. Everybody's talking about waking up the neighborhood, everybody's gonna shake it up today. Everybody's talking about waking up the neighborhood, running just to get away. Stuck in America, stuck in America, I'm lost in America, stuck in America. Today I changed, new town with the same old face. One way to shake this place that I can't escape. Everybody's talking about waking up the neighborhood, everybody's gonna shake it up today. Everybody's talking about waking up the neighborhood. I'm still trying to escape. Stuck in America, stuck in America, I'm lost in America, stuck in America today. Everybody's talking about waking up the neighborhood, everybody's gonna shake it up today. Everybody's talking about waking up the neighborhood, all I ever wanted was to get away.
どうも、世界で一番のバンドは
Stuck in America, stuck in America, stuck in America.
All right,
That's what
welcome
Stuck
back
in
to the
America is about, dude. Stuck in America is about feeling, no matter where you are, whether you grow up in a rich neighborhood or a poor neighborhood or Indonesia or New York City or Santa Barbara, no matter where you are, when you're young, you just feel like you want more. And there's got to be something else over the the grass is always greener. Like just sort of looking over the
Gotcha.
wall and going, what else does life have to offer? And I think that's just a natural part of what propels someone to do something rad with their life, is like that feeling of like, instead of feeling like sort of surrendering to the inevitability of like a mundane existence where you're just like, well, fuck it, life sucks, you just work and you pay your taxes and you get your paycheck and you buy some beer and you hang out with your friends you don't really like and then you fucking die. Like, really? Like, you get to fucking take a ride on this rock floating through space for the most. We all won the lottery. We're all a bunch of people that like got to be fucking born, against the greatest of odds. And I think we take that for granted. So it's like 100 years, dude. 100 years from now, no one's gonna even fucking remember Stephen Moss or Marko DeSantis. Maybe somewhere in some history book there'll be some little mentioning that we existed, or some, 100 years from now, no one's fucking gonna care. So what are we so worried about, and what are we waiting for? It's like, what do people like? If you're lucky enough to like find something you love to do with your life, just run towards it with everything you got and do it, And like, who cares? Like, you want to fucking spike your red mohawk up to the sky? Fuck yeah, you know what I mean? Like, why doesn't everybody do that? What's everybody wearing like Abercrombie and Fitch and tucking their shirt in for when you could express yourself and do something more interesting? I don't know. I'm biased because I'm a weirdo, but like, anyway, man. But Stuck in America is like, that's sort of about that. It's not some big, giant, heavy statement. It's just a simple song about feeling young and feeling unsatisfied.
I just wanted to bring up one last point on Start Static. When looking through this, I saw that the song Say I'm Sorry was actually a big reason of why you were signed, but yet it never made the album. Why was that? If it was such a important song to begin with, why was it left off?
Well, so Say I'm Sorry was one of our earlier songs, and it's probably one of the songs on the demo that eventually got us a record deal, because it was one of our more popular songs when we were like starting out in Santa Barbara and just playing around LA here and there. And I don't know, I always thought it was a really cool song, and so we put it on the if you get the like 20-year anniversary edition, if you get it on vinyl, or you can find it on this digital whatever streaming, we put some bonus tracks on it. We have like a live version of Bouncing Off the Walls, a live version of Stuck in America, and then we have our cover of Elvis Costello's No Action, which we used to always play. Like, I think on the Warped Tour 2001, we opened with that song like almost every show.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was on the little sampler that we'd hand out for free to people at that Warped Tour 2001. And then we never put it out. So it was like, oh, we should probably put that out. So we add that on, and then we put on the demo for Say I'm Sorry, because that's an important song in the puzzle of Start Static. But unfortunately, like, there was just, when we were making the record, we were like, once the record started to take shape, I mean, you got to understand, when we made Start Static, we had like 40 songs. So our producer was like, dude, I just want to hear every song you've ever made up. And we're like, okay. And we started going through all these songs, and it was like, it's pretty easy to go, okay, well, these ones kind of represent like the early stages of Sugarcult, don't really represent who we are today. Even then, it was like, these songs were only a year and a half old, but they already feel like not who we are today. Because when you're, it's like babies. Think about how fast a kid evolves from like being like a swaddled little like 4-month-old to a like 3-year-old who can talk and read and walk and run and do all kinds of shit, and throw a temper tantrum. It's like an eternity in those period of years, whereas once you're like 27, when you go from 27 to 30, you might even still have some of the same shoes. You probably have your hair the same way. Like, you don't change that drastically, So it's like early on in a band, your first batch of songs, and then a year later your batch of songs, and then a year later after that your batch of songs are going to be drastically different. One day we're going to put out this collection of old Sugarcult, like pre-Start Static Sugarcult recordings, and you'll trip out. You'll be like, wow.
Well, I have a question about that, because I was going to switch gears to talk to palm trees now, and you have a documentary on YouTube about the making of some of your albums and stuff, and it brought out that during that album process, you had 20 songs available at the time. but not all of them made it on the album. So I was wondering, are you gonna ever do like a unreleased album of like previous unreleased songs or something like
Well,
that?
probably. Tim's a little cringy about it because there's some of the stuff that
Okay.
he's like the early songs he wrote where he's just like, oh my god, it's like, it's like the really embarrassing picture you have
Gotcha.
of yourself with like buck teeth when you were like 7 years old that your mom has hanging in the house and you like don't want your like, you're like, oh god. But most of the stuff, I think we had some really cool songs. There was some stuff that was obviously just learning, stuff where you're like, okay, that's kind of, but on Start Static, I mean, you got to go back 20 years. We were still really thinking about making a record. So we were coming out of that. That was before, actually 2001. Start Static shares a birthday with the iPod. iPod came out in 2001. So we were still in the like CD, records and tapes mindset. And that's what we grew up on. So when you make a record, you're really thinking, okay, how do we want this record to go from start to finish? Side one, side two, the end of side one, the beginning of side two. Like you really think in terms of that. So when you listen to Start Static, probably the truest way to listen to Start Static is on vinyl because you have that moment to take it off and then turn it around, put it on there. And it's sequenced in that way where like You're the One starts the album, we literally like almost got in fist fights over which song was going to be second, which song was going to be third.
Oh, wow.
Every single song on that album is where it's going to be because of like emails and arguments and threats to quit the band and almost like take your shirt off, let's go right now, motherfucker, I'll fight, I'll lose a tooth over fucking Lost in You being that where it is in the sequence, so passionate about it. And then so it's like the way the record goes. So we really, that was like the band, the four of us in the band, and our producer Matt Wallace really considering it, putting so much, and then maybe our manager chiming in with his opinion, our A&R person chiming in with their opinion, and us kind of going, okay. And then what's there is like, okay, we finally found something that everyone's kind of like, there might be one or two people still going like resenting and going, why, I never want to put that on there. But like more or less, it was kind of like everyone's cool.
That's the happy medium.
It's not even a compromise. It's like we're all stoked. We all kind of
Gotcha.
Kind of going, I can sign off on that. Oh, that's fucking cool. Yeah, this works. Gotcha. And then you listen to it in your car a bunch. And honestly, like certain songs, at some point we had to make peace with it. We're like, we're gonna have to let some songs go. Some songs just aren't gonna fit on this album because they don't have a place in this little like story that the record tells. And Say I'm Sorry was kind of that song where like, God, this song feels like we would have, in a million years we would have thought, of course Say I'm Sorry is going to probably be the single, and then we realized we're like, I feel like Say I'm Sorry, we got to let go of it. We got to let, it doesn't, there's other songs on here that just fit the vibe of this record better. So I'm really glad that people are able to hear it now because it really does give you clues, and you can listen to Say I'm Sorry and there's a lot of like, and it's just a demo of Say I'm Sorry. It's not going to sound as good as all the other songs on Start Static, but like there's something about it that gives you a clue as to like how Start Static happened. Like Start Static was the next step after something like Say I'm Sorry. That was like really where we were as a band. And then we kind of just evolved into, the whole album Start Static is really like, I changed my name as a old Sugarcult song. That's one of the first songs we ever had. The song,
really?
There's a few songs on the record. Crashing Down, super old song. I can't remember what the newest songs were. Probably Daddy's Little Defect, maybe You're the One, maybe Stuck in America, maybe How Does It Feel, or Saying Goodbye. I don't know. Like they all were sort of came together around, a period of about a year and a half, and then that was it. We captured it, gotcha. Right? So yeah, we'll probably put together, to answer your question, we're going to put together probably a retrospect of the pre-Start Static stuff. But as far as Palm Trees and Power Lines go, to be honest with you, the songs that ended up on Palm Trees and Power Lines, that album was written in like a month or two.
Wow, really?
Like little ideas bubbled up on the road. But we were on the road so much for Start Static, we hardly ever had time to just like, kind of sit and like, develop ideas. So it was like little swatches of ideas here and there that we jam out at sound check, or Tim would kind of mess around with in his hotel room here and there. And then we got home and like Tim just locked himself in his room for like a month and then just came out the other end and was like, okay, dude, I got a bunch of cool ideas. And then we were like, all right, let's check it out. And then we sort of developed them into songs and got recorded it pretty quickly. That album was it's weird because Start Static was like all from the day we started the band for a couple of years. We had like I said, you know, they say you have your whole life to make your first record, and then you have just like a few years to make your second record. But we really only had like a month or two to make our second record.
Wow.
So it's very fresh. It's very like a lot of the songs are sort of deal with similar subject matter, where it's like this relationship Tim was going through and this situation we were all experiencing as a band, where we were like kind of uprooted and just put into like, you know, I mean, we started with Start Static. We went into the studio and we were all like living in apartments and driving hand-me-down cars and like, you know, living a musician lifestyle, you know, like broke musicians. And by the end of that album cycle, we were like, you know, rock stars. So that's a huge transformation to go through from like, you know, nobody cares, you're just some fucking schlub trying to get your friends to come see you play on a Tuesday night, to all of a sudden people know the words to your song and you're playing giant festivals with people jumping up and down and signing autographs for 2 hours. You know what I mean? It's a weird transformation to go through, you know? And you kind of pretend, you play it cool and you try to pretend like you're ready for it, but like no one's ever really ready for that. You do know, because I think you have kids, right?
Yeah, I got 2 kids.
Yeah, I have 2 kids too. It's the same thing. You don't think you're going to know what to do, and you're kind of panicking and like reading books about it and freaking out, and then you have kids and you just suddenly realize you're like, oh yeah, I'm an animal. This is my job, it's not a decision to love your kid and nurture your kid. It's an instinct, you know?
Well, that makes sense. I got you.
And so it just becomes like, okay, jump in the net will appear. I know what to do. There's some kid who's like crying. Maybe they need food or sleep or diapers, and you just do it, you know? And just like people have been doing it for years and years and years, it's the same thing with music. It's like suddenly it's like, oh, what do you do? Well, there's really no guidebook. So you just kind of go, well, let's not be dicks, and let's try not to lose ourselves in this and think we're like, you know, better than everybody else, or think that we're fucking entitled to this. Like, let's try to keep our feet on the ground, you know?
Gotcha.
And let's keep our eyes open and actually enjoy this, because we're already strapped in and there's no getting off the roller coaster now until it naturally stops. So if we're gonna go on this roller coaster ride, let's keep our eyes open so we can enjoy it. And if we fly out halfway through, oh well, you know, or if we make it to the end of the ride, awesome, let's go on it again, you know? So it's kind of like you gotta like stay humble, keep your eyes open, enjoy the ride, make the most of it, you know? Yeah. Because you know, if you're lucky enough to ever do it, you're probably doing it longer than, if you do it for 5 minutes, you're doing it for 5 minutes longer than most people who ever form a band in their little cul-de-sac ever get to do it. You know, so you have to honor the opportunity and be like, dude, we get to fucking do this. You know, we get to do this. This is amazing. I can't believe we get to do this. So let's do it. You know, the least we can do is like go out and play a show and put some heart and soul into it, you know?
Well, that's cool, man. So the next video I'm going to play for everyone is Memory.
Oh, yeah.
And what's cool about this is I read that you had said that video was kind of like a play off of New Noise by Refused.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And what's cool is I totally missed that growing up. But now when I go back and rewatch it, I'm like, oh, I can see it now.
Well, I happen to have the guitar that I used in the Stuck in America video.
Okay,
just this,
awesome.
you know, really cheap Epiphone. It's this cool TV yellow, but it's a really cheap guitar. And I put like stickers from our logo on it, and then a picture of Robert De Niro from Taxi Driver. And then on the back,
Refused. That's awesome.
So I always kind of had an artistic crush on Refused and International Noise Conspiracy. Even though our music didn't really sound like that, you know, just always thought that they had really a really cool vibe. For some reason, I just always really identified with them as far as like,
that's cool.
This sort of like, of all the metalcore and hardcore bands, they were the ones that were just a little bit more mysterious and stylish and cool. And of all the like bands that we got lumped in with, I would like to believe that we were the ones that were like sort of stood on our own a little bit too. Because people would lump us in with all these other bands, and I was like, well, but look at a picture of us and look at a picture of them. They all look like they're, flip through alternative press, and we're going to look a little bit different, and we did that by design. We're like, we do not want to fit in,
Gotcha.
Well,
again, it's funny because I read that you guys didn't even really see yourselves as a pop punk band. Is that true?
I think so. I don't think we knew what to make of ourselves because, like I said, we were four very different individuals, and we were probably on the same page that I'm looking at your posters. We were on the same page that we liked Nirvana, and we were on the same page that we thought Green Day was cool. But almost everything else we pretty much disagreed. It was like, one guy likes the Stones, one guy likes the Beatles, one guy likes old punk rock, one guy likes new punk rock, one guy likes songs that are on the radio, the other guy likes anything but songs on the radio. We were certainly not like, it was kind of an opposites attract in Sugarcult. It wasn't like we weren't just peas in a pod. I mean, me and Tim aesthetically kind of harmonize with each other a lot, but there's a lot of shit Tim loves that I hate, and a lot of stuff I love that Tim hates, So and I think that's maybe what made our band stand out a little bit, is that we didn't have that sort of like, hey, we're all Blink-182 fans, so let's try to form a band that sounds like, I don't know, Blink-182,
Gotcha.
It was kind of like, we all love rock. Our version of what we think rock and roll is cool about rock and roll. Let's blend them together and kind of come up with our own composite sort of weird like alloy of things we think are cool. And that's kind of what makes us a little bit of a harder band to categorize and just easily. And to me, like I got to know Dennis from Refused on the Warped Tour, and talking to him, it was like the same kind of thing. It was like he loves like 70s like skinny tie power pop, like the Knack and bands like that.
Yeah, he always had the black tie.
Other guys like all about Slayer, and then he also likes Metallica and also likes like super underground like political punk rock, and you realize like once you get to know people in bands, you realize that it's usually the bands that are really magic are the ones where they might be coming internally from different places aesthetically, but then they put something together and it becomes this like, that's kind of how you get something original, maybe,
That's awesome.
So, so whatever. But as far as memory video, we definitely saw that. Like, I like that New Noise Refused video. There was elements of it that I was like, this is super cool. Like, we should do something like this in this spirit. Like, I like the like, filming something, playing the song like in double time, and then you play along to it in double time while you're doing the video, and then the director slows it down so it looks like it's in slow motion, but you're actually playing in real time. So that was a trick, and then you do the opposite, where you play it in slow motion, you record it in slow motion, where it's just all, this may never start, and then you speed it up to normal time, and the way you're moving looks all kind of weird. So we kind of stole some ideas. We're like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing to do. Yeah. And like, and the strobe lights, the lights, which Refused, to be fair, probably stole from Fugazi, because when they used to play, they used to bring shop lights and point it at the crowd. Instead of using the like fancy like
cool.
rock star lights, they would just like shop lights.
Just regular shop light. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you only like kind of saw their silhouettes, and you were like kind of blinded while you were watching them. And then like, let's see, that video, I remember that I had a really bad cold, and my nose was just like running constantly, like literally no amount of medicine. I was like, just like if you could see I wish they threw a frame of that in just for fun in the video, like subliminally, but the back of my amp was just like a mountain of Kleenex, because it was like in between every take, I was just like, just trying to like, and then just running, jumping, running, rocking out with just, So that's a little fun fact about memory that I remember.
That's
and that was also our first video that we ever did with Kenny, with our new drummer Kenny. So that was kind of, Palm Trees and Power Lights felt like a new band almost. Like we had been the band we were with Ben, and the three of us. And then when we made Palm Trees, that's when we transitioned. During the making of Palm Trees, Ben just started sort of like not really showing up to the rehearsals and the writing sessions, and just sort of like it was just felt like there was this. It had naturally been happening for a bunch of different reasons that I don't think we should get into. If you watch our Back to the Disaster documentary DVD,
Yeah,
or
it goes into it, but I didn't
Yeah.
really want to kind of go down that road.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like Ben is Sugarcult. You know what I mean? He was like he taught us all. He taught me how to play guitar for Sugarcult. He taught Tim how to make the songs. I mean, he was there would never be a Sugarcult without Ben Davis. So it was a really important thing. But there came a point where it was like, in order for Sugarcult to continue, we had to like go, sort of part ways with Ben, because it wasn't good for him, and it wasn't good for the future of the band. So it was like one of those, like, it was a really weird thing, and we had to kind of let that happen. And I, of course, had that in me from Popsicle, where I was like, I had been in a band with someone who has like, substance abuse issues before, and I know how the story ends, and I can't, in clear conscience, allow this to just go unchecked until this, God forbid, he does the same kind of thing to himself, so I sort of had that extra thing burning inside of me from my previous life.
Well, fortunately,
Yeah.
it seemed like because of that, he was able to, get clean, straight.
Oh yeah, he got his shit together like tenfold.
So that was cool.
That guy's crushing it in life. Has a beautiful family.
That's awesome.
Huge, thriving career. But anyway, so when we made Palm Trees, that was a weird album for us because it was really emotional. It was like, okay, we're making this record without Ben. This is a real big change. We didn't know if Kenny was going to be like our drummer forever or just our drummer for the time being. At the time, it was like, we kind of felt like, who are we anymore as a band? Or was it just the three of us? Is it like, and so we had this new blood. We had Kenny, and Kenny was such a like just different type of person in so many ways, different type of drummer, different type of just, vibe, everything. And then, we were just different band. We were much better. We were a better band because we, literally we toured for almost 3 years straight. We toured nonstop on Start Static. And when you do something, you do anything over and over again, night after night for years and years, you're going to get good at it. Probably, right? And even we got pretty good, even though we started out, we had no idea what the hell we were doing. We got pretty good, and so we made that record, and it was definitely a step, a giant leap in a forward direction. But honestly, dude, the record to me that really captures the potential of Sugarcult more than anything else is probably Lights Out, which is the one that the least people know about. Like when someone hits me up and they're like, dude, I didn't even know you had a third record, or they like, oh, I never really checked out Lights Out. They assumed it wasn't good because it didn't get a lot of hype or songs on the radio. They go to no fault of its own. There was a bunch of drama that happened with the record company and stuff, and which is why Lights Out kind of got prematurely cut short. But like,
well, it had some great songs on it. I'm gonna end up playing 2 songs from it.
Oh, cool.
During here, that way people can see it.
Yeah, that's like one that like when people sit down and listen to it, they're like, wait, why wasn't this record huge?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, why wasn't Dear You by Jawbreaker huge? It's just, timing is everything, and it was just one of those things. But it's cool when and who knows? I still I'm kind of the hopeless romantic. Like, I still feel like one day maybe we'll get to make another record, and it would be fun because it would be just out of curiosity. It'd be neat to see what would happen with the same group of dudes, documenting life. I don't know. Maybe people don't want to hear what a Sugarcult records sound like today, but like, it's cool that we have these 3 records, these 3 documents of 3 separate chapters of our existence, and that's I definitely recommend to anyone out there who's like, hey, I wonder if I should make records. It's such a cool thing to do, because I go back and listen to it. Like I said, it's like time travel. I can go back and listen to each one of those records now, and they open up a whole different set of memories, a whole different set of epiphanies and realizations, and they honestly solve things that retroactively, I can go back and listen to it now that I've had years to, of life. I go back and go, oh, you hear it, you appreciate it on a deeper level, even something you were part of creating. You're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize at the time, but this is what I was doing. That's why it was cool. That's kind of what it is. Like, you get these little opportunities, like whether it's photographs or records or whatever it is, that you can go back, like with photos. I'll look back, like with making this 20-year anniversary Sugarcult thing and working on the Popsicle thing, looking through boxes at my mom's house of like the old stuff. And you find stuff that at one point in your life, at some point you went, well, I should probably keep this, threw it in a box, put the box away, forgot about it.
Gotcha.
Now you take it out and you look at that same thing and you're like, holy shit, this has like gained in cultural importance. The picture you didn't even think was good enough to put in a photo album, you find in a box somewhere, and you look at it and you're like, okay, that person's dead, that person's dead, that person ended up marrying that person, and that person is now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Wow, we were just kids hanging out. You know what I mean? Like, it's
man,
so cool.
That's cool.
You stick around long enough, and it just gains in value. Like you said about Popsicle, like we had this flyer where like Weezer was it was like Popsicle, another band, and Weezer.
Yeah, Weezer was on it.
They weren't even like. It was the first time they'd ever played in Santa Barbara. They were just like an LA band that was just about to come out with their first record. So it was like, these things happen, and it's such a trip, man. And music becomes your sort of way of like your breadcrumbs, where you can kind of go back and sort of retrace your steps and be like, oh, okay, it's cool. Yeah. It's pretty fun.
Well, we were talking about memories, so this is a good time to play the video of Memories.
I see what you did there.
By Sugarcult.
Back to the disaster.
Los Angeles, and Out of Phase.
Oh yeah, dude, Out of Phase. I was so stoked when I saw that on your list. I was like, oh, dude, I've always like been like a evangelist for that song. I was like, that's the fucking best song on that record.
Well, it's my favorite on the album. That's why I
Oh,
just kind of
dude.
was gonna throw it in there.
I liked it. That's awesome.
I'm at a range and you're all radio. I want my entertainment. I'm at a phase and you're all stereo. I want my entertainment loud right now. You shut up, know the difference. I'm at a range and you're all radio. I want communication break. There's so much useless noise that I can't take. There's so much useless noise I can't break through. I'm out of range, but not invisible. Don't want my entertainment vacant like an empty statement. I wanna burn this station down right now. You shut up, count your distance. I'm out of phase and you're all stereo. I want communication break. There's so much useless noise that I can't take. The sounds are getting louder every day. That I can't take. I'm out of phase. There's so much useless noise that I can't take. The sounds are getting louder every day. There's so much useless noise that I can't take. I'm touching body areas I feel vacant like an empty statement. You and I cannot escape this vacant like an empty statement. You and I cannot escape this.
And Los Angeles too. Los Angeles is a fun story. I'll tell you real quick. Los Angeles started out as we got this weird, again, we get these random opportunities, and we somehow became kind of friends with Joan Jett,
Oh,
Joan
that's
Jett
cool.
Blackhearts, and we found out that she liked our band. We were playing a show in New York, and our manager was like, "Hey, this is kind of weird, but put this name on your list. Joan Jett wants to come see you guys play." And we're like, "Oh shit, no way!" Like that
Wow.
was some legend, And she came and she couldn't have been cooler. Just the most like down to earth,
Oh.
cool, just like hilarious, super intelligent, like super intense, but like just such a sweetheart. Like she's just like kind of person that like just instantly is like you meet her. There's no handshake. It's instantly a hug, and at the end of the night, it's like a
that's
hug
cool.
and a kiss. You know what I mean? Like
That's
you
awesome.
know, she's just like super sweet. And eventually she hit us up and was like, I'm doing like a Christmas album and I want to collaborate with like young bands or something. And can you guys would you guys want to write a song for me? And we were like, fuck yeah,
Oh, wow.
like Joan
That's
Jett.
amazing.
And so we started working on this song, and like that's why there's like one more holiday that I cannot celebrate. You know, like there's little references left over in that song that sort of would make you think about the holidays, you know,
Gotcha.
you know, because it started out as the song we were originally kind of conceiving to give to Joan Jett, and then we kind of got to that point where we're like, I think this song's kind of too good to give to Joan Jett. We kind of have to keep it. And then her album fell through anyway, and like that project didn't end up happening, so it's all just as well. But like it started out like, oh man, we're giving this song to Joan Jett. And then we never could really finish the song. We didn't know what to do with it. We're like, I know this song's going to be good, but we couldn't figure out the chorus. And we tried like so many different choruses. And then Tim was hanging out with our friend Tom from the Plain White Tees, which is the band we used to tour with. Like they used to open for us every show we ever played. The Plain White Tees were opening. And then they had that Cinderella story, because that song, Hey There Delilah, became a big hit. And that song was like 6 years old or something by the time people heard it. It was this
I actually didn't realize
song.
that, really.
Yeah, they hardly ever even played it on stage, because it was like the last song on a record or something. And that Tom would sometimes, when they would open for us, they went on so early that most people would miss them. So then Tom would go out. They had that like Midwestern work ethic where he's like, I'm here to work. They play the show, and then at the end of the night, Tom would go outside of the venue with his acoustic guitar and just like play on the street while kids were getting picked up by their parents or walking to their cars or waiting for their train or whatever. And he would usually play like that song. So he didn't even like bother playing it on stage. It was like so not... But then it became a hit, like in a very indirect way. But so once you know, we were somehow Tim was hanging with him, and he was like, dude, would you want to like help me with this chorus? Like we're trying to figure out the chorus. And Tom came up with some cool ideas. So if you look at the minutia of the writing credits, you see Tom Higginson, because he helped us with the chorus. Yeah.
Very cool.
Of Los Angeles. So started out as a Joan Jett thing, ended up as a collab with Tom from the Plain White Tees, and I think it turned out to be a pretty cool song. And then I remember Matt Skiba told me once, the guy from Alkaline Trio, who now is in Blink-182, he told me he loved that was like his favorite song by us, and that he ended up writing a song on the Blink record that he made, and I think it might have even been called Los Angeles. So yeah.
Wanna go without gives me a slack and a car that won't break down in the heat of Los Angeles. Come on, it's alive and breathing. Come on, come alive today. Come on, it's a heart that's beating. The sun is burning down. Come on, it's alive and breathing. Come on, alive today. Come on, it's a heart that's beating. The sun is burning down Los Angeles. The sun is burning down Los Angeles. The sun is burning down Los Angeles. The sun is burning down Los
Anyway, so that was that, and then what's the other one? She's the Blade. That was fun. We shot that video. We were on the Warped Tour in 2004, and I think we had a day off, and we just like jumped into a studio in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. I think it's kind of near Williamsburg. There was like some big warehouse space, and it was almost all done with what they call green screen. You know, where it's just like green screen, green boxes, green backgrounds, and then these directors like. They were known for this. They were like, your video is going to look like a video game almost. It's like it's going to be sort of this fantasy world of like just this like almost kind of apocalyptic medical situation. So none of the stuff you see in there, other than us, our instruments, and that insanely beautiful girl that's in the video, is actually like real. It's almost all like
It's all
done
green screen?
post, right?
That's
so
cool.
like there's footage. I think there was an actual bed that Tim got to get in with a girl that you see at the end of the video. But other than that, most of the things were like built in post in green screen. So it was kind of fun for us to make because we didn't really know how it was going to turn out until we actually saw it. We just knew these guys were like, I can't even remember their names, but like they were like known for doing that kind of really cool stuff. And we thought that'd be kind of fun. That girl was really cool. She was saving up money to, and she was like engaged to be married, and then she was gonna move back to like Poland or wherever she was from and get married and completely drop out of being a model or anything. So that might have been one of her last gigs, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
For all we know, she's like some mom in Poland right now.
Don't you make a move tonight, you can only stagger. Once she's got you in her sight, you're the one
I was gonna put up a photo
Okay.
for everyone to see at home because this I thought was super cool. The story of it was back in 2004 of how you guys got to know that you were picked to go on the tour with Green Day.
Okay. I know what
Do
you're
you
talking about. A
remember?
picture of Tim holding the thing from Billy
Yeah.
Joe.
So
Yeah.
so I'm gonna
Okay.
post that or put that picture up so people can see it. What was that
Okay.
day like for you? Do you remember when that happened?
Oh, 100%. So there's two things. There was two times we got to tour with Green Day. Okay, we toured with
I think this was the Japanese one, right?
right. So we were
Okay.
we were on the Warped Tour 2004, and we heard from our manager that, hey, you guys are on the short list of bands Green Day's considering to try and open for them for their new album they're doing called American Idiot. They're doing this tour. They're gonna be playing arenas. And you're on the short list. Don't get too excited, and we're like, oh my God. So of course, how can you not get excited? Every day we're calling them, did you hear back? Did you hear back? Like the little kids saying, are we there yet? We're just like, are we there yet? Did we get it?
Yeah.
And eventually we found out that we got it. And it was gonna be us and Newfound Glory. So we like walked over to Newfound Glory's bus. We're like, dude, we're gonna be on tour with Green Day together. We were all super stoked and like celebrating with them. And then we did the tour. It was so fun. Like, could not be more classier people. The guys in Green Day, just so like, just everything about it was just first class. It's really cool. Like I said, it's like they come from that punk rock vibe. So it's like, even though they're playing arenas and they have managers and security guards and personal assistants and booking agents and lawyers and all that stuff, it's like you can take the person out of punk rock, but you can't take the punk rock out of the person, right? And these guys are just those guys, whether
That's cool.
for better or for worse. They're just like, you love to see it, There's so few glimpses of that you get to see at that level. I would say maybe the Chili Peppers, the Foo Fighters, and Green Day, that still have that and maybe Pearl Jam, that still have like that punk rock attitude, even though they're like playing stadiums, and genuine punk rock, and it's just like. Anyway, so I think it was in Detroit. I'm pretty sure we were at the arena there. It might have been Detroit or it might have been in like Texas somewhere. Anyway, and we're playing the show, and I see like once in a while you'd look over to the side of the stage and someone from Green Day would be standing there, and you get even though you're hanging with them and they're cool, you the novelty of like, oh my God, it's a rock star wears off because you see that they're just cool people. But like, you're still kind of intimidated when you see them standing on the side of the stage. Like, you're like, are they about to prank us? Are they gonna like, oh my God, why did of all the nights, tonight's the night I fucked up that part when that guy their guitar player was watching me, And so it was kind of intimidating. We see Billy Joe on the side of the stage, and he's like writing something, and I'm like, what's going on? And then he hands it to our guitar tech Matt, and Matt runs it out and like puts it down by Tim's monitor, and Tim kind of looks at it while we're playing this, in the middle of a show. And he kind of looks at it again, and he picks it up, and he looks at it, and he's like, and he walks over to me and shows it to me, and we're both like, oh my God. We look over and we see Billy Joe, and he's just like, we're like, like, basically he was like, will you guys go to Japan, or do you know you're going to Japan with us, or something like that, And so we were like, hell yeah. And I just thought, how rad is that? Like, you write it on a piece of paper and bring it out while we're in the middle of the show. And just like, I just love the idea of that. And it was like, well, of course, I don't even forget about how much we're going to get paid or how we're going to put it together logistically. It's just like, of course, whether it makes sense or not, of course we're going to go to Japan with Green Day and play. And it was so awesome. And while we were on that tour in Japan, as you can also see in that documentary that we have, that's when my first kid was born, which was bittersweet because I'm like, oh my God, I'm in Japan playing stadiums with Green Day, but I missed my first kid. I missed the birth of my first kid. So, champagne problems.
In that same documentary that you just mentioned, Back to the Disaster, your bandmates said this of you. On many levels, he's just like a fan. He gets the fans better than anyone else in the band. So I like to end my shows by asking everybody, what would you like to say to your fans?
Okay. I need more than a minute. You know what I mean? But like, it's like, what do I say to the fans? I mean, for one, it's like, it's obviously thank you, because we made up some songs and we formed a band and we got in a, vehicle and drove around and set up our gear and played shows. But our fans are the ones that, and we were lucky enough to get a manager and get a record company, but no one did that for us. They did it with us. the people that did it for us, if anybody did it for us, are our fans. And I'm not saying that in some kind of like patronizing kind of way, like Taylor Swift accepting an award kind of way. I really sincerely mean it. And I'm sure Taylor Swift sincerely means it too, but like I sincerely mean it because literally we were not on a big label. We were not a very big band, you know. We just kind of went out there, and like our fans, the people that we met along the way, our band resonated with, there was this, I don't know how it worked. I don't know if like some kind of energy that we put out as a band, but for some reason people felt like, I want to pass this on to someone else. I heard about, like, they felt like Sugarcult's like a secret that they learned, and now they want to go tell that secret to someone else, and like that person felt like, oh, I know about something that my friend that I respect told me about. Now I want to check it out. Okay, I like this too. Now I want to go tell it. So it was like very like person to person, fan to fan, brick by brick, you know, town to town. It was a very like organic thing that grew all over America, all over Europe, all over, you know, Australia, all over Japan, all, you know, kind of all over the world. There's even places we've never been where we have fans. And that's just an incredible thing to think that, like, it's not because, I mean, with all due respect to the people at our record companies or whatever, it's not because of them. And not because of MTV or the radio. It's because of actual people, you know, that we met on tour that would be like, if I give you a sample or CD, would you burn copies of this for everyone you know? If I give you a copy of our CD for free because you can't afford it right now, you promise to burn it and play it for everybody you know, and if you don't like it, then give it to someone you think would like it. Just really like on the street level doing it like that, and our fans were able to do that. And when I look on Spotify today and I see 1 million people listening to our song a month, to me that's the exact same thing. It's still happening. They're still doing it for us. And so I guess thanks, you know, because, you know, it really is, our success is your success, and our 20-year anniversary of Start Static is your 20-year anniversary of Start Static, because we made the record, but you guys made the record. You know what I mean? So there's that. Dude, thanks, man.
Can't thank you enough, man. Thank you so much.
It's fun. Yeah, let me know how it turns out. Good luck with your
you.
festivals. All right, see you.
Thank you.